aber wir können das Beste herausholen. Vor allen Dingen da, wo es um die Begegnung zwischen Menschen geht. Darum bin ich froh, dass wir heute, wie gesagt, neben den großen geopolitischen Fragen auch über die Dinge, die viele unserer Menschen und gerade die Jugend bewegt, intensiv sprechen konnten und dass wir jetzt zügig die Frage zum Beispiel der Schülersammellisten angehen, damit Schülergruppen endlich wieder unkompliziert einreisen können. Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, lieber David, unsere Liste der Themen ist lang. Wir hätten jetzt noch 3 Tage weiter miteinander sprechen können, aber ich danke dir sehr für das heutige Gespräch. Und bei deinem nächsten Besuch in Deutschland sitzen wir dann hoffentlich für einen Moment zumindest nicht nur in Besprechungsräumen zusammen, sondern können vielleicht sogar eins der Spiele der Fußball-EM im Juli gemeinsam sehen. Und ich sage, möge das bessere Team gewinnen. So vereint wir hier gerade sind, beim Sport hört dann die Freundschaft auf und die Liebe. Ich freue mich in diesem Sinne darauf, dich bald hier in Berlin wiederzusehen. Herzlichen Dank.
Thank you, thank you. But may the better team win, but not on penalties. I think we can all agree about that. And Annalena, thank you very much for the warm welcome. It's a real privilege to be back in Berlin and with you, having this strategic dialogue. And can I say that how much I welcome the partnership that we're forming. You speak with such strength about Ukraine. You speak with great moral clarity about what is happening in the Middle East, and it's a real privilege to be working with you. And although it's only been for a short time, I think we are proving to be very strong allies, very strong partners, and good friends, and that's as it should be. I first visited Berlin back in the early 1990s. I even found a picture of myself hacking at the remnants of the wall that had by then come down, and I'm looking forward to revisiting that spot with you today. As Prime Minister, I visited Germany 12 times as a sign of how much I value this relationship and what a vital partnership there is between Britain and Germany. And one of my favourite visits was when Her late Majesty the Queen came to on one of her many, many visits to Germany, and I was able to accompany her and saw in what high regard she was held here. And I was delighted to see that His Majesty the King's first state visit was here to Germany, showing how he wants to carry on his mother's incredible work in building the relations between our two countries. This is my second visit to Germany in the 3.5 months that I've been doing this job, and I hope that we've shown that that this British Conservative and this German Green are absolutely joined up. We've already done a joint article in the newspapers which really pioneered what we're saying about the need for a sustainable ceasefire in the Middle East. We helped bring together the Munich meeting where European countries and America together with Gulf and Arab partners talked about some of the things we need to do to not only bring the conflict to an end but build peace in the Middle East. We've worked incredibly closely together on this issue of how we get more aid into Gaza. And I completely agree with what Annalena has said. Yes, we must look at the options on the sea. We must look at options, as we've done, of delivering aid by air, as we've done recently with the Jordanians. But nothing must distract us from the fact that ultimately, if we want to avoid famine, if we want to avoid disease, if we want to help people in Gaza, we need 500 trucks a day. That means more crossing points. It means simpler logistics. It means stopping sending back items that would be perfectly harmless. It means making sure there's proper deconfliction inside Gaza so you can get this aid around. It means more visas for the UN staff so they're able to help deliver these things. This need really is urgent. I made these points to Minister Gantz when I met him yesterday, and I make these points again today to urge all parties, and of course it's not just the Israelis, there are others involved, but all parties, principally the Israelis, to make this happen and make this happen now. Of course, the other priority in the Middle East is how we bring about this stop to the fighting, which we want to happen now. We want this pause to happen now with this hostage deal that's now on the table, and Hamas should accept it. They are the ones now holding up the stopping of this fighting. But the crucial work that Annalena and I have been doing is to say, how do we turn a pause into a permanent, sustainable ceasefire without going back to the fighting? What are the conditions necessary? And if we can put in place the return of the hostages, if we can put in place a new technocratic government on behalf of the Palestinian Authority, if we can set out that political horizon for the Palestinian people so they can see a future where they'll have the dignity of statehood, and if we can reassure Israel that the leaders of Hamas, the people responsible for the horrors of October the 7th, will have to leave Gaza and the infrastructure of terror will be taken down. If we can do those things, we can start to build towards not just a permanent ceasefire, but also a solution. And we will do everything we can working together to help to bring that about. In terms of Ukraine, it's so heartening to hear the passion with which Annalena speaks about how vital it is. I just think this is the test for politicians of this generation, of this time. I don't have any doubt that the Ukrainians are brave enough. I don't have any doubt in their leadership. I don't have any doubt in their ability to fight and to resist this appalling Russian aggression. The question is for us, are we, the European countries, the Euro-Atlantic community, the allies of Ukraine, are we going to see this through? Are we going to give them what they need? Are we going to back them with everything that we have? And to be fair about this, Germany has done an enormous amount. If you look at actually which countries have given the most militarily, diplomatically, financially, Britain and Germany are two of the biggest contributors. We are playing our part, but we both know we have to ask ourselves and all our allies, what more can we do? What more ammunition can we provide? What extra production can we invest in? What weapons do we have that could help the Ukrainians in this fight? And we've been discussing this today. And of course, there's the question about what we can do in terms of medium and longer range missiles. And I just make this point, because it's a sovereign decision for every country. But in terms of what Britain has done, I know that what we have given to the Ukrainians has helped them to resist this appalling invasion and to fight back against Russian aggression. And to all those in Germany and beyond and around the continent and around the world who want to see an end to this conflict, who want to see a peaceful settlement, who want to see peace on our continent, I absolutely agree, but you get peace through strength. You get peace by demonstrating that Putin cannot win. You get peace by helping the Ukrainians deliver what they need on the battlefield, because they are fighting for their country, which has been illegally invaded. And it's our right to do everything we can to help them resist that aggression. Of course, we've discussed all the aspects of this conflict, the other things we can do, the sanctions we need to put in place to stop countries feeding Putin's war machine, the way in which perhaps we can use the assets that have been frozen, and Britain is very keen on this, to help finance the reconstruction of Ukraine and help them in their efforts. We've also, alongside those things, we've had very good bilateral discussions about everything from business and trade to climate and people to defence and also the issue of immigration, which is something that is affecting all countries in Europe, and in particular the need to smash the evil people smuggling gangs that are delivering this trade in misery, where people get into fragile rubber boats and cross the channel, many of them dying in the process, and what we can do to smash the gangs and seize the boats and stop this from happening in the first place. We discussed a number of other bilateral issues, and of course we discussed where I started, that important issue of the Euros coming up soon, and I'm delighted to be offered this invitation and what games we can look forward to. Obviously, it makes me reflect on the last time I think I watched a football match with a prominent German politician. I think it was Chelsea-Bayern Munich. It was 2012. It was during the G8 conference in Schloss Elmau, And I remember particularly because Chancellor Merkel and I were very caught up in this game, I think it's fair to say. And at one point, President Obama said, look, this isn't really proper football, point one. And secondly, can we please get back to work? And I remember the former Chancellor, who was, like me, very diligent, very hard-working, said, no, we can't possibly get back to work. We have to watch the end of the game. And on that occasion, I'm very glad that we did. But I don't know what will happen, but we'll all be cheering for our teams, and it'll be a delight to come back to Germany and watch one of those games. And as a country that's hosted a few tournaments like these, can I wish you the very best. It's going to be an enormous festival of football, a great moment for Germany, and of course, I hope a great moment for all of the UK national teams who will be playing in the tournament. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mit Blick auf die Uhr haben wir noch Zeit für 4 kurze Fragen. Hans van der Borchert von Politico beginnt.
Yes, erstmal Hans van der Borchert von Politico. Meine erste Frage wäre an die Außenministerin. Sie haben ja gerade noch mal eindeutig angesprochen, haben da erwähnt, auch weitreichende Waffen, dass es die jetzt braucht. Wir müssen alles senden. Inwiefern glauben Sie, dass sich denn die Bundesregierung da noch einmal bewegen kann? Inwiefern wollen Sie da auch noch mal bei dieser einen weitreichenden Waffe, auf die heute auch gesprochen wurde, da auch noch mal Druck machen? Das wird ja auch nächste Woche im Bundestag noch einmal Thema. And to Lord Cameron, I would like to ask the recent remarks by Chancellor Scholz about his justification not to send the tourists, about British soldiers in Ukraine. To which extent have those remarks perhaps put British soldiers at risk? And did you suggest in your discussions today, you mentioned also long-range weapons, the proposal that British soldiers could program and supervise Taurus missiles for their use by Ukraine, or are you perhaps also going to suggest this later when you're going to meet Chancellor Minister Wolfgang Schmidt? Thank you.
Ja, den ersten Teil vielleicht erstmal an mich. Ich verstehe Ihr großes Interesse an dieser Frage, aber bestimmte Dinge diskutiert man nicht auf offener Bühne auf einer Pressekonferenz, geht vielleicht auch für den zweiten Teil. Mit Blick auf die weitreichenden Waffen möchte ich unterstreichen, dass dazu ja eine Vielzahl von Waffensystemen zählt. Vor allen Dingen auch die Haubitzen, Panzerhaubitzen, die wir sehr frühzeitig geliefert haben und auch gerade jüngst nochmal beschlossen haben, da weiteres Material zur Verfügung zu stellen. Sie wissen, dass wir als Bundesregierung insgesamt uns jeden Tag wieder erneut fragen, was wir noch tun können, um die Ukraine bei ihrer Verteidigung gegen die russische Aggression zu unterstützen, und zwar nicht nur wir als Bundesregierung, sondern immer gemeinsam mit unseren Partnern, weil das Effizienteste ist, dass wir diese militärische Unterstützung nicht nur eng abstimmen, sondern weil wir gerade mit Blick auf weitreichende Waffensysteme, mit Luftverteidigung, mit Artillerie, mit Blick auf Munition am effizientesten sind, wenn wir das gemeinsam planen. Und deswegen war ein großer Teil unserer heutigen Diskussion eben auch, wie wir innerhalb der NATO diese Frage von Beschaffung, diese Frage von Bereitstellung von Fähigkeiten für die Ukraine, aber auch darüber hinaus für uns als Verteidigungsbündnis noch besser aufstellen können, sei es finanziell, wir wissen, dafür braucht es viele weitere finanzielle Mittel, sei es aber gerade auch mit Blick auf Effizienz und Interoperationalität.
Thank you. I don't make any comment about British troops. That position's been set out by the Prime Minister on many occasions. I've got nothing to add to that. On the question of long-range fires, I mean, this is a matter for the German government to decide. I can only speak for Britain. I can speak for the fact that we have found with the weapon systems we've supplied to the Ukrainians, it has helped them to defend themselves from this terrible aggression. As I said in my remarks, we should pay tribute to Germany for the fact that they have done a huge amount in terms of weapon supply and diplomatic and also financial support to Ukraine. And if you add up all those things, military, diplomatic, financial support, Britain and Germany, as I said, are two of the biggest contributors. We have a proud record. We're asking ourselves what more can we do, but others should also ask what more can they do. I just make one point on this escalation issue, which comes up a lot. I think that the history of this is very clear, that at every stage it's been said, if you give anti-tank weapons to the Ukrainians, that's escalation. No, it wasn't. If you give tanks to the Ukrainians, that's escalation. No, it wasn't. If you give long-range artillery or long-range fires to the Ukrainians, it's escalation. No, it isn't. And I think the reason for that is clear. If what you're doing is helping a country defend itself from illegal and completely unjustified aggression, then there should be nothing to stop you helping that country to fight back, to recover its territory. As long as we're not in a situation where a NATO soldier is killing a Russian soldier, we are not causing escalation. We're allowing Ukraine to defend itself. And I think we need to be really clear about that point.
Thank you very much. First of all, Foreign Secretary, just to pick up on that point, are you actively pushing Germany behind the scenes to send those Taurus missiles to Ukraine? Because you clearly think, or you're suggesting you think that that would be the right thing to do. I also have to ask about the Luftwaffe leak. The German government has said that they believe trust amongst allies is unbroken. Is that true, or do you agree with your Conservative colleague, Ben Wallace, who said that he believed Germany is pretty penetrated by Russian intelligence? And to the Foreign Minister, just to push you on the Taurus missiles as well, I mean, are you trying to persuade your Chancellor to change his mind on this issue, and do you think you will succeed? And on the leak, your ambassador to the UK said there was no need to apologise for what had happened. Do you agree?
Well, let me start on this whole issue. I don't want to play into the hands of some Russian narrative about divisions between allies. What I see, 100 and whatever it is, 19 days into the job, is incredible unity between allies, incredible unity in NATO, which has just got larger with the addition of Finland and Sweden as members. And I sort of contrast in many ways what I saw in 2014 when we dealt with the incursion of Russia into Crimea. And there wasn't such unity then. Today there's incredible unity between Britain and Germany and France and America and across Europe in helping Ukraine to fight off this aggression with everything we can. Now, of course, we're going to have areas where we want to discuss what more we can do, what more we can help. And those are the sorts of discussions that good friends and allies with this unity have in private, and that's the sort of discussions that you would expect. As I say, when it comes to the long-range weapons, I can only speak for Britain's experience of how effective these weapons have been at helping Ukraine to fight off this illegal aggression. And it's worth thinking about, the specific issue of the fact that, a year ago, Ukraine couldn't export through the Black Sea. The economy was suffering. Ukraine is a massive exporter of agricultural produce. And the fact that now, through their own efforts, not through some UN grain deal or anything like that, through their own efforts, they have pushed the Russian Navy right back across the Black Sea and are able to export grain, almost the entirety of their harvest from last year. And that is growing their economy, boosting their ability to defend themselves. That is a huge success story for Ukraine, which we should celebrate. Well, as I said, I don't want to, play into some Putin narrative. There's great unity between allies.
Ich habe hier vor über 2 Jahren gesagt, an dieser Stelle, einen Satz, den ich mir niemals hätte vorstellen können. Wir sind in einer anderen Welt aufgewacht, weil Putin das getan hat, was unsere Generationen sich nicht hätten vorstellen können, dass wir wieder über Krieg in Europa, über ein anderes Krieg reden müssen. Und wir sind in einer anderen Welt aufgewacht und deswegen haben sich von heute auf morgen ganz andere Fragen uns gestellt, als man das eigentlich in Demokratien, in seinen politischen Wahlprogrammen, Koalitionsverträgen, Regierungsabsichten so vorhat. Und die Stärke von Politik, von Führungsverantwortlichen in Demokratien in solchen Momenten ist aus meiner Sicht, dass man bereit ist zu reflektieren, zu hinterfragen, was müssen wir jetzt anders machen. Und wenn man was anders machen muss, diese Wege dann auch mutig zu gehen. Und das haben wir getan, auch immer, indem wir diskutiert haben, was gibt es für Alternativen, wo es natürlich auch unterschiedliche Sichtweisen gegeben hat. Weil wenn man Dinge tut, die man noch nie zum ersten Mal getan hat, dann ist es aus meiner Sicht wahnsinnig wichtig, dass man die unterschiedlichen Sichtweisen berücksichtigt. Und das haben wir in den 2 Jahren immer wieder getan, in der Bundesregierung, aber gerade auch zwischen uns als Partnern, um dann gemeinsam Entscheidungen zu treffen. Und zwar wie zu treffen? Geschlossen und entschlossen. Weil das ist aus meiner Sicht eine der wichtigsten Lehren, das hat mein Kollege auch gerade noch mal deutlich gemacht. Die Geschlossenheit und die Entschlossenheit. Das war unsere Stärke als Partner an der Seite der Ukraine gegen diesen brutalen russischen Angriffskrieg. Und deswegen kann ich nur wiederholen, ich verstehe Ihre Fragen, aber genau deswegen lassen wir nicht zu, dass wir uns spalten lassen. Dieser Krieg ist ein hybrider Krieg. Der wird mit brutalster Gewalt, mit Waffen geführt in der Ukraine. Der wird mit perfiden Mitteln geführt als Kornkrieg gegen die ärmsten Länder auf der Welt. Und der wird mit auch perfiden, aber strategisch gesetzten Mitteln der Destabilisierung von Demokratien geführt über Fake News. Und dazu gehören auch Dinge, die jetzt getan worden sind im Informationsraum mit Blick auf Putins Politik der Destabilisierung, Diskreditierung und Unterwanderung mit Blick auf die Abhörung, die gerade stattgefunden hat. Und in solchen Momenten kommt es dann darauf an, was ich zu Beginn gesagt habe, politische Verantwortung und Leadership, sich nicht spalten zu lassen. Daher bei allem Verständnis, ich verstehe Ihre Frage, aber wenn wir unterschiedliche Sichtweisen haben, dann diskutieren wir das hinter verschlossenen Türen gemeinsam, denn wir werden uns von Putin, egal welche Mittel und Methoden er noch auffährt, nicht spalten lassen, weder innerhalb unserer nationalen Demokratien in Deutschland, in Großbritannien, noch zwischen uns als europäischen Partnern in der EU oder der NATO.
Die vorletzte Frage geht an Alexander Ratz von Reuters.
Ja, vielen Dank. Alexander Ratz von Reuters. Eine Frage an Sie beide, bitte. Können Sie noch etwas ausführen, welche Rolle ein möglicher Wahlsieg von Donald Trump in den USA heute bei Ihren Gesprächen eine Rolle gespielt hat? Und inwieweit sehen Sie die Notwendigkeit für diesen Fall, dass die Zusammenarbeit zwischen Großbritannien und Deutschland in der Sicherheitspolitik noch intensiver wird, dann auch unter Einbeziehung Frankreichs mit Blick auf die nukleare Abschreckung? Danke.
Wir haben, wie ich ja ausgeführt habe, intensiv darüber gesprochen, wie wir den europäischen Pfeiler innerhalb der NATO stärken können, unabhängig davon, wer auf der anderen Seite der transatlantischen Brücke auch in den nächsten Jahren sein wird. Weil nochmal, wir verteidigen hier unsere eigene Freiheit, unsere Sicherheit als Europäerinnen und Europäer auf unserem europäischen Kontinent. Und deswegen ist die Zusammenarbeit gerade auch innerhalb der NATO zwischen uns Europäern so wichtig, und zwar nicht nur den EU-Staaten, wo wir eine noch intensivere Zusammenarbeit im Bereich der Sicherheit und Verteidigung anstreben, sondern insbesondere mit Blick auf unsere europäischen Partner, was ja nicht nur Großbritannien ist, aber natürlich gerade Großbritannien mit Blick auf seine sicherheitspolitischen Fähigkeiten. Und das ist für uns zentral. Da haben wir heute drüber gesprochen, aber da haben wir auch in der Vergangenheit drüber gesprochen. Und es wird eins der wichtigen Themen sein mit Blick auf den NATO-Gipfel. Wir sind beide, ich glaube, das kann ich in unser beider Namen sagen, davon überzeugt, der europäische Pfeiler innerhalb der NATO muss stärker werden, weil es um unsere Sicherheit und Freiheit geht. Als deutsche Außenministerin eines der größten EU-Länder möchte ich aber auch deutlich machen, die NATO ist unsere Lebensversicherung, wenn wir über eine stärkere europäische Sicherheits- und Verteidigungsunion als Europäerinnen und Europäer der EU sprechen, dann meinen wir damit innerhalb der NATO.
Thank you. In terms of the strength of our defence partnership, I'd make 2 points. The first is, I mean, after Brexit, I've always said that the aim of Britain should be to be, we're not members anymore of the EU, but we should be friends, we should be neighbours, we should be partners. And I think in many ways what this collaboration over defending Ukraine's right to throw off this Russian aggression, it's demonstrating that Britain can be best friends, best neighbours, best partners for the EU as a member of NATO and with the capabilities we have and the incredible support that we've given to Ukraine. In terms of your question about Donald Trump and the nature of our alliance, first of all, NATO is getting stronger. That's good. More countries are reaching 2%, and I salute what Germany's done to do that. We're heading towards 2.25% in the UK. And that surge in NATO is very worthwhile. NATO is a nuclear alliance. We have the US nuclear umbrella, but of course we also have the British independent nuclear deterrent, and that is itself declared to NATO. In terms of we didn't specifically talk very much about the American elections. We were too busy talking about all the things we have to deal with. The only point I would make is it's not in our control. Britain and Germany, we will work with whoever wins the elections in the United States and try and build the importance of that Atlantic partnership. The only thing I can think is that what we should do in the next 8 months is make sure that whichever dossier we're talking about, whether it is the move towards a peace process in the Middle East or whether it's this vital fight for Ukraine to throw off Russian aggression, we want to get these things in the best possible place by the time of the US election. So whoever is the victor in that contest can see that all of our countries working together, whether we're in the EU or not in the EU, but working in partnership, have moved those onto the best possible plane they can be, because that will make the incoming president, whoever he or she may be, more inclined to see the strength of the European partnership and the fact this isn't just about European security, it's also about global security and American security. And that's, I think, the work that we're doing today.
Neuhoff, Sky News.
Lord Cameron, you mentioned the need for more aid to get into Gaza. Is the UK doing enough to pressure Israel? Sorry? Is the UK doing enough to pressure Israel to allow aid to get into the Strip?
Look, I think we're doing everything we can. As I said, we've been very clear about the things that need to change. We really need to see more openings in terms of crossings to the border. We need to see more types of aid get in. We need to see the number of trucks go up. We need to see more UN staff with visas inside Gaza so they can move the aid around. And crucially, we need this deconfliction mechanism to work so we don't have terrible scenes where trucks are unable to move and they're raided by people and all the other terrible things that have happened. So we're doing everything we can. We're working very closely with our allies. I think the Israelis have to really understand that this is on the brink of being a desperate situation in terms of disease and famine, and so the time for doing more is now. But we also need to make sure that at the same time as saying that, we say to Hamas that they should release these hostages. I mean, think of these families. We're now coming up to day 150 of people being in this appalling captivity. I'm sure Annalena has too. I've met with hostage families. I've met with people that were released after 45 days, and the things they tell you about what they saw and what their family members had to undergo. It is horrifying. So in all the thoughts we have about the aid getting into Gaza, and I would argue no one is doing more than Britain and Germany to pile that pressure on, let's remember that there's a group of people that could stop this conflict right now, and that is Hamas. They could sign up to this hostage deal. They could release the hostages. They could, in fact, lay down their weapons and leave Gaza and give the Palestinian people a chance of a proper future. And we mustn't ever forget that there is something they could do, as well as putting this pressure on the Israelis, which is absolutely necessary.
Thank you very much. Vielen Dank.